My face is shaven, and I missed last week because my computer was broken. Let's talk about Raw now. What's up? I'm Pete Last Guy, and this is Raw Emotion, where I take a look at this week's Monday Night Raw. And I tell you a little bit about what I think, and a lot about how I feel. And that's going to be hard today, because I don't know what to feel. Let's just start from the beginning. We'll work up to it, okay? We'll work up. There's two very big things that really got me this week. But let's work up to it. Let's start at the beginning. Stephanie McMahon. So she comes out to the ring to tell everybody, hey, Foley's not here, so I'm in charge. And since this is the opening segment of Raw, and making an appearance in it is apparently just in his job description now, I guess, Roman Reigns. Here he is. Yeah, he comes down and interrupts Steph, and then of course his interruption gets interrupted by Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, who I guess are just the Good Brothers now. I refuse to call them that, so I'm just gonna say Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson come out and interrupt Roman. Anyway, Steph ends up booking a handicap match between those two and Roman Reigns because she's a heel today, and that match goes about how you would expect it to. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows eventually get themselves disqualified, and then they kill Roman's magic. I think it's not a super memorable match. That's the thing. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Roman fights him off by the end, but he gets the win over the tag champs. Why is he fighting the tag champs? Forget it. But moving on from the current tag champs to the former and longest reigning tag champs, New Day. What happened to you guys? What happened? I mean, obviously, they're still entertaining to watch, and they're doing everything they can, but the booking, first it was Titus O'Neil, then it was, I don't even remember who it was. That's how stupid this is, and now. Kofi Kingston has a match with Bo Dallas. Of course, he ends up beating Bo Dallas, I think. Again, I don't remember. What I do remember is that the entire basis of this segment and match was New Day like ice cream. Bo no like ice cream. New Day like ice cream. Punch, punch, punch. Yay! Ice cream. To have some cereal. What is happening? And speaking of monumentally stupid things that the WWE is still doing, Emelina finally made her debut. Oh, look at her. There she is. And now she's gone to become Emma again. This is confusing and stupid. This is confusing and stupid. This is confusing and stupid. Moving on to the next thing before my brain melts and starts dripping out of my ears, we got some Cruiserweight Corner action happening, and the Cruiserweight matches tonight, honestly, pretty darn good. I liked them. It still, again, feels like they'd prefer I just be watching 205 Live, but they're giving me these little Cruiserweight treats on Raw just to keep me satisfied, and that's okay. I'm coming to terms with it, honestly. They're kind of trying to make it its own brand. And what we do get to see on Raw has been pretty good recently, especially with Neville as the champ. The first Cruiserweight match that we see this week is Jack Gallagher versus Noam Dar, with at ringside his girlfriend, Alicia Fuoxa. Scotsman. Good match, good wrestlers. It's good, solid like B+ match. Gallagher wins. At the end, of course, Neville comes out to stare angrily at him, because that's most of what Neville does now, aside from just hurting people badly, is then he stares at them angrily. And while we're here in Cruiserweight Corner, we'll jump ahead and talk about the other Cruiserweight match. Again, solid B+ match. You got Akira Tozawa, whose music is just barely not the music from Kill Bill, you know, when they're walking. It's that song, just barely different. It's like what they did with Carmella's entrance music, just barely not being fancy by Iggy Azalea. Listen back to Akira Tozawa's entrance music. I'm right. But he had a match against Arya Daivari. If I remember right, he won. They're trying to push this guy, and cool. Again, both good wrestlers, good cruiserweights. They did good cruiserweight stuff. Good to watch. Doesn't really tie in with anything else that's happening on Raw, so there's not much more to say about it. And my man Braun Strowman had a match this week against Mark Henry. That's pretty cool. They're starting this push now with him. It was announced recently that he's going to have a match against Big Show as well. So that's smart. They're doing this thing where now, instead of putting him up against jobbers or putting him into storylines with other wrestlers that are, you know, normal person sized, they're pushing him with these big other monster dudes to kind of cement who he is and the powerhouse that he is, and I like that. The match with Mark Henry was, you know, picture a match between Braun Strowman and Mark Henry, and that's how it went. Mark Henry tried to give the world's strongest slam to Braun, and I don't know if this was like a botch or if it was like an intentional thing, but it didn't quite work out. Braun just kind of fell on him and eventually gave Mark Henry, not the running power slam, because Mark Henry is very large, but he gave him that power slam, pinned him, won. Roman came out to kind of get into it with Braun, you know, because they're feuding, I guess. But I was okay with Roman coming out this time because it meant that Braun Strowman got to pulverize him. I mean, pulverize. He took 2 Superman punches. He kind of went down on one knee, and then as Roman went for the spear, he turned the spear, boom, into that power slam, and it was brutal. It didn't look super polished and precise, but it looked like they were fighting. It looked like they were fighting, and it looked great, and I loved it, and I got to watch Braun beat the snot out of Roman Reigns, and that's just, gosh, any day I can do that. I'll just take that opportunity. Give it to me again. I'll watch that on repeat. So good. We got a backstage interview with Samoa Joe, and I do want to mention at least one thing here. Michael Cole brought up, you know, other guys that have, you know, worked for Triple H and kind of been his muscle. Shawn Michaels, Batista, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, and, you know, what ended up happening to all of them. And, you know, if Joe thinks it's a good idea to side with Triple H, and what basically Joe said is, look, those guys, here's the difference between them and me. They needed Triple H. I don't need him. I'm doing this because I want to. Because I'm a destroyer, and that's what I do. I'm not dependent on Triple H. They were. I'm not. And I thought that was cool, to at least address that and bring it up. And Joe seems formidable, not only physically, but he seems like he's got a mindset that's going to make him pretty unstoppable. So I'm excited to see what they do with him here on Raw. Let's move on. Next match is Sami Zayn versus Rusev. That's a good match. Going into that, you know that's going to be a good match, and it was a good match. It was Sami Zayn versus Rusev. These guys are, I can't say enough how good these two are, just on every level, performance-wise. It's fantastic. I am a little put off, just a little bit, by the fact that Rusev is now just straight up taking the dashing Cody Rhodes gimmick and using it for his own. Handsome Rusev, and instead of the full face protector, it's just a nose protector, and yeah, okay. That doesn't mean it was anything less than a fantastic match. One that Sami Zayn emerged from victorious, and as of course he's being interviewed on his way out, and you know if someone's getting interviewed after a match, something bad's gonna happen to them, and oh, would you look at that. See, in his interview, Samoa Joe had mentioned Sami Zayn and how I'm not like a Sami Zayn who's just happy to be here, and Sami Zayn in his interview was talking, oh, I heard that interview, well, with Samoa Joe, and he telling me, you know, that I'm just happy to be here, and I just wanted to say that he's gonna defend himself, and then boom, Joe! Zayn gets beat up, Zayn gets coquina clutched until he is no longer conscious, and Samoa Joe, it just does his thing. I love it. It's good. Yeah! Maybe this leads to a feud between the two of them. Maybe Joe just goes through the whole roster and just does this to everybody he doesn't like or everybody that Triple H doesn't like. Either way, I'll take it. I like this. Samoa Joe, yes please. Before I move on, I did want to mention one spot in that match where Rusev, like, super kicks Zayn off of the apron, and you just, boom, it was such a brutal, there were a couple really brutal spots like that in this match. Anyway, that's it. We're gonna move on. And before we get into the two big things, there's just one more thing I'm gonna run down a little bit. Enzo and Cass, they had a backstage segment earlier in the evening between them and Cesaro and Sheamus, and they're picking fights, and I've just chosen at this point to view Enzo and Cass as just complete heels. And I get that face-heel dynamic is different now. It's, I guess, more of a spectrum. You know, there's not so much black and white in WWE these days. And I think that's a good thing, in a way. But they still kind of paint Enzo and Cass as these heroes of the people, and they're not. They're not good guys. They're bad. They're bad guys. So I'm going to picture them as bad guys. And that makes this match between Enzo and Cesaro make a little bit more sense, you know? But that was a decent match. Again, not much to say about it. They're kind of wearing thin on me now, Enzo and Cass are. I hope something different happens with them to kind of mix it up. Maybe just go full heel and make them be aggressive and mean again. But in the meantime, you got two faces in a match together. Good match to watch. Cesaro is great, and Enzo flies around. I enjoyed it, ultimately, but let's do something else with these guys, okay? Which brings us to the Festival of Friendship. Where do I begin? Going into this, I was expecting it to be just one of those dumb little segments, like a glorified highlight reel, essentially. You know, one of those dumb little things that they do. But Oh man, I mean, they were building up through the whole show. There were the video packages about JeriKO and Kevin Owens' friendship and their relationship, and the things that have led to this moment all throughout the show. I was like, wow, they're really building this up. Maybe it will be big, and it was, man. They were in Vegas, and JeriKO went full Vegas with the white suit, and the white hat, and the showgirls, and of course Kevin Owens coming behind him just like, not super into it. Not super into it. Yeah. And maybe that should have telegraphed for me a little bit what was still to come. But leading up to that, it was, oh my gosh, I lost my mind. I was laughing. I was watching this with my wife, and she will tell you I was laughing. I was marking out so much during this segment, and there wasn't even any wrestling. The sculpture, first of all, that Chris Jericho commissioned from one Frank Guggenheim. Super awkward sculpture about how they're intertwined. But then there was a painting as well that I absolutely need in my living room right now. Like, WWE needs to sell prints of this. The creation of Kevin. I mean, oh, and it was... I can't even... This was so good. This whole segment was so good. And then his last gift to Kevin, Chris's last gift in the Festival of Friendship for his best friend Kevin Owens, was to present him with Goldberg, to bring Goldberg down to the ring so that Kevin Owens could fight him and beat him up. And my wife will tell you this. I swear I said this. Goldberg's music starts. I'm like, oh wait, his music is actually on. You know, it'll be ridiculous. Oh my gosh, I would love it. This would be ridiculous. If they brought out, like, Gilbert. I don't even know if he's still around, but if they brought out Gilbert, what? There he was! This was actually Gilbert. I marked out harder for Gilbert than I've marked out for any wrestler in a very long time. Don't ask me why. I was on emotional high from the rest of the Festival of Friendship, from the rest of this episode of Raw. I was just feeling good. I was very excited that Gilbert came down. How old is he now? Man, Gilbert comes down and they beat him up and it's great. And then that's when things take a turn. Kevin says he only got one gift for Chris. Gives it to Chris. He opens it up and Chris is very excited. He says, it's a brand new list. And he takes it out. And this is why Kevin Owens is a genius. See, he knows he's over. He knows he's insanely over with the fans. He knows we love him. We absolutely love him, and we're not supposed to. He's a bad guy. He's a heel. He knows that. He knows we're supposed to hate him. So when he realizes that we love him too much, he takes the two aspects about this angle he's been involved in that are the most over. He takes the list of JeriKO and his friendship with JeriKO, and he turns them into heat. He presents JeriKO with his very own list of KO. That's only got one name on it, and that's Chris's. Takes the list of JeriKO, turns it into heat. And then, as soon as this dawns on Chris, he gets him. He beats him up. He beats him up, and then he beats him up some more, and he throws him into that monitor, whatever that was, in the ring there, and it shatters, and eventually Chris gets taken away in an ambulance. Kevin takes him and Chris's relationship, which was so over, which the fans loved, and he destroys it, and he turns it into heat. Ooh, we hate him again now, and I love him so much for it. And honestly, this was one of the most emotional moments on that I've experienced in any WWE event of any kind in recent memory. I mean, WrestleMania had better be good, because I was legitimately heartbroken when Kevin turned on Chris. How could you do? He's been there for you. And then after taking my heart and putting it down in the depths of despair, Raw reaches back down and pulls me right back up again with the main event. A women's title match between Bayley and Charlotte. And look, I know that the ping-ponging of the women's title is getting a little old, and maybe it devalues the belt. A lot of people would argue that. And I get that, oh, okay, so Charlotte loses it on an episode of Raw and not on a pay-per-view. Of course. I get that that's maybe a little played out too, but the way they executed it on this week's Monday Night Raw, I was locked in. That whole match, I was there for it. Oh, it was so good. I mean, stuff really started to get real, I think, at that spot where Bayley is thrown neck first into the turnbuckle, and that looked gnarly. I don't know how you make that move work so that you don't get injured. But I mean, apparently she's not. Apparently, these are professionals. I guess it's right there in the name, professional wrestler. She takes that bump, and then Charlotte is working that neck throughout the entire rest of the match. There was her moonsault that she did off the barricade right on to Bayley's neck, and man, Bayley she takes the licking and keeps on kicking out. Man, kick out after kick out after kick out, and then she rallies, she comes back, she's got a comeback sequence, she's tearing Charlotte apart, and Charlotte keeps kicking out, and by that point I'm just locked in, and then suddenly, what? Oh yeah, Dana Brooke exists. I completely forgot, honestly. Yeah, Dana Brooke comes back from whatever closet they've been keeping her in for the last month or whatever, and interferes on behalf of Charlotte, pulls Bayley, or Bayley kicks her back, and you're like, oh man, it's not even gonna matter. She's gonna overcome the interference by Dana Brooke, but then a little bit later, she's got Charlotte in the figure four, and you're like, is she gonna make her time for the figure four? That's Ric Flair's move. And Dana Brooke rakes her eyes. Just gets in like, this big brutal looking eye rake. And honestly, I liked Dana Brooke's presence in this match. I don't usually say that. I'm not a big Dana Brooke fan, but I think she was used well here. And that eye rake looked, it was bad. And Bayley sold it. But the match continues, and Dana Brooke keeps trying to interfere, but then she's stopped by out of nowhere, Sasha Banks with the crutch. Boom, takes her out, goes around the ring, takes out Charlotte. Well, the ref isn't looking. Bayley gets the pin, and Bayley is the new Raw Women's Champ. No, seriously, I had to exhale deeply at the end of that match because I was enthralled. That was the best women's match, the best match that Raw has put on in a very long time. Wow. So that's this week's Raw. I am all over the place emotionally. It was up, it was down, it was average, it was stupid, it was way up, it was way back down, and it was way back up again. I need to drink some tea and take a nap. So I'm gonna be done with this video now. Oh, what did you think about this week's Monday Night Raw? Let me know, please, in the comments. Tell me where you think some of these storylines should go. Give this video a like, share it with your friends who like wrestling, and subscribe to this channel for more weekly wrestling content. We do this every week. But until next time, I've been Pete Last Guy. You've been a delight. I'm emotionally drained, and this match is over in 1, 2... I'm peeling. I'm gonna cut this whole part is just gonna get cut. It's gonna be great. I mean, obviously they're still entertaining to watch, and they're doing